Hi everyone, welcome out to the Dice Tower. My name is Chris Yee, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a hockey game. This is a game called All-Star Draft. Now, as you can guess from my apparel, I am indeed probably the resident hockey fan of the office. Go Golden Knights. But this is a game about animal cards that are you're drafting. Is a drafting game about making a hockey team, which I think is fitting. So let me show you how it plays. It's a bit of a lengthy explanation, which if you don't want to know everything about, you can go ahead and skip obviously to my final thoughts. But if you're interested in how it works, it's got a few different things going on, so it's going to be a little lengthier of a rules overview. But then when we come back, I'll tell you what I think about it. Here's the setup for a game of All-Star Draft. The only thing that you can't quite see in frame is the gigantic, ludicrous, huge All-Star trophy that the game comes with. This is literally the size of the box. You assemble it together. On the back of it is a little player aid information for the last round of the game that we'll cover later, but it's not terribly important, so it's okay that it's ridiculous and gigantic. Every player has a choice between two coaches at the start of the game. The coaches are also the suits of the cards, but they're not inexorably connected or anything. It's just you get the coach and some power. You're also dealt a hand of 6 cards. This is a drafting game, meaning that you will look at your hand of cards and then you will choose one of them, keep it face down, and then pass the cards to the next player, clockwise in the first round, counterclockwise second, clockwise in the third. Every player is doing this simultaneously, choosing one of the cards and then passing the remaining cards over to the other player. What this means now is that you will have a new hand of cards to pick one of these from, and so then you can try to make a good connection of teams. So you'll do this around 6 times. You'll be grabbing 6 cards, and then from those 6 cards you'll be formulating a team of 5 players. Why are you making 5 players? Well, you want to try to win the points or the fans that are shown on the different stadiums. The first round of the game, you only reveal 1 stadium. The second round, you'll reveal 2 new ones, and in the third round, you'll reveal 3 new ones. You see here that this is, for the best team, first place will get 10 fans, or 10 points. This track goes up to 60, and then kind of loops around again. Second place will get 9, third 7, and so on down the line. You'll see that there's actually a little bit of a boost here. If you're in last place, you get 8 fans, because fans like an underdog. So that's one of the interesting ways these stadiums score, is they can be highest to lowest or different a little bit. So each team is going to go ahead and create, or each player will go ahead and create a team of 5. I'm just going to simulate 2 here for to be able to show you here. And then after the 5 cards are chosen as a team, you'll assign which arena they'll go play at. In the first round, it's obviously arena number 1, but when there's 2 of them, you'll have 2 separate teams, and you'll have to assign, hey, one of them is going to play in arena 1, the other team of 5 is going to go play in arena 2. So then we would reveal the players, the lineup of our teams. So what you'll see here is that you are trying to get more of the same, of some type of thing, whether that be symbols here, or you want to have the most combination of things. So that's either symbols that are shown on the cards, or suits of cards, or the numbers shown on them. So if any player had more than the other player, if this person had 5 of the same suit, 5 of a kind automatically beats 4 of a kind here, and so they would get first place. But because this is a 4-4 tie, this is the order of the tiebreakers. Did anyone have 4 of a kind in these symbols? If you did have it in symbols, you have to look at this. Nets is the highest symbol, then pucks, helmets, gloves, then skates. So if I had 4 skates and someone else had 4 pucks, they win the tiebreaker. Well, none of us went with symbols, so therefore the next tiebreaker we see is suits, or the animals shown on the card. Well, they have 4 horses together here, whereas my 4 of a kind is actually numbers. So because the suit of the card is the better category than numbers, they win the tiebreaker. They'll get the 10 points, and then I would get the 9 points, which is, is still not too bad. But if it came down to, once again, if it came down to suits, if they had 4 horses and I had, say, 4 eagles, we see that horses is higher up in the tiebreaker than the eagles. And then the numbers, the 9s are better and all the way down to the ones. So this was simple. But the teams will stay out. We'll deal out 6 cards to each player. Again, they will draft cards. Well, what about that one card that I drafted but I didn't put on my team? That person's sitting on my bench. So when I draft 6 new cards, I will have a bunch of cards here to work with. And if you look, hey, I drafted a bunch of skate symbols. So even though that's the worst symbol, it's still a pretty darn good category. And I drafted this 6 here. One of the important things is that when you draft the next hand of cards, you can swap out one player from a team with a player that's in your bench or, in your leftover cards, both the new cards I drafted and the one left over. So I drafted a 6, so I would be able to slot this new card into this team, and then I could create a team of, say, these players here. We'd also reveal, as I mentioned, 2 new arenas, and these ones are going to score a little differently. These ones score 17 points down to 2, and then this one actually kind of increases. It goes 13, 14, 16, 13, 11, 9. So it goes up closer to 3rd place and then back down. So that'll affect the way that I want to craft this team. Maybe I don't want 5 of a kind. Well, I want 5 of a kind to win those points. But maybe I want to try and somehow craft the 3rd best team and not the 1st best team. So maybe I'll pick this team here. Instead of having 4 skates, I'll choose 3 skates. And then, as I mentioned before, we'll assign the teams. So now I want this one to go to 1, and I want this one to go to 2. Once all players have done that, we'll reveal it, and then we'll evaluate our team number 1s against each other for these points. Then we'll evaluate team number 2s for these points. This will continue for a 3rd round, and then we'll reveal 3 stadiums for the 3rd round and score all those points. But no good hockey season would end without a playoffs. So the playoffs mechanism is a little bit different here. How the playoffs work is that each player will have had 3 teams and a few leftover cards. All of those teams will be mixed together into the player's hand, and now they will choose to play out 5 of them at once. So, obviously maybe I want to play out my best 5 cards. Well, here's the little trick to it. The playoffs are basically an elimination game. Depending on the number of players you're playing with, each of them will have what's called a playoff card. Basically, 1 pass. But if you play with fewer players, you can be eliminated 2 or 3 times before you're out of the game. But if we're playing, say, up to the 6 players, each person has 1 chance before they get knocked out. All the players will create a team of 5 cards and reveal them at the same time. I have 5 6s, that's 5 of a kind. The worst team out of all of the teams will be knocked out. And when you are knocked out, then you refer to this trophy and you receive that many points based on the order in which you were knocked out. So if we're playing a 6-player game, then, hey, right here, 7 points for being knocked out first. And then that person's no longer in the game. The rest of the players will then have to substitute at least 2 and at most 4 of these cards. So 2 to 4 of these cards will have to be substituted. So now I have to, of my remaining cards, swap out 2 of them. So maybe what I'll do is I'm going to swap out 2 of these 6s, but I'm going to leave in this one because I got lots of that symbol. So this is going to be my new lineup. So we reveal the team, and then we evaluate everybody's team of 5 cards. The 2 that are removed, the 2 cards removed, is gone from the game. So now we go around and we evaluate, hey, somebody else got knocked out, not me, because I've got 4 of a kind, and someone else could only have 3 of a kind. That person who's knocked out then gets 15 points or 15 fans. I then have to do this yet again, and maybe what I'll do is I'm going to swap out 2 more cards, these 2 here, and I'm no longer trying to have a bunch of 6s, but now I've got 5 of a kind of the skate symbol. Everybody reveals, and then the next player who's eliminated, and so on, gets all these points. If I get eliminated second to last, I still get 41 fans or points, and then the last player who's still in the game gets 50. But if you swap out too many of these cards, then if you run out of cards in your hand, you're automatically eliminated. So the playoff is a little bit different, but basically you play the 3 rounds, score them up for majorities, keep track of the points, and then you combine all your hands for the playoffs and try to outlast. And that's how you play All-Star Draft. All-Star Draft is, it's a very interesting game. It's got a lot going on. You have the card drafting, then you have the team formation, you have the swapping of players on between the bench and the teams. You have this secret selection amongst all players simultaneously about which teams are going to play in which arena. And then you have the playoffs. That's a lot going on. This game is a little bit difficult to teach, and yet I found it incredibly charming. I've played it both at 2 and up to the 6-player count, and nobody's really complained about it, which is very surprising to me, right? When you're able to play well in those extremes in a game like this, that's pretty cool. The majority system obviously works really well, I find, for 6 players, because the difference between being first and being 6th on an arena can be a big swing of points. But I love the fact that there are arenas which are, 17 points for first place, 2 points for last, and then the total inverse, 0 points for first place and 14 for last. So occasionally, the game will throw this wrench in there where you want to create a crummy team. And so you're drafting cards saying, how bad of a team can I make? And yet, because of that playoff mechanism, where you're going to scoop up all of your cards from your 3 teams and the 3 left over in your bench, and you are going to then have to create good teams, one after the other, for the end of the game. When one of those inverse arenas come out, when 0 points for first place, 14 for last, you don't want to tank your overall system of cards. So I find that's a really intriguing thing. I wish that there were more arenas that did really kooky stuff. 0 points for first and last place, 15 for middle, something like, and then also maybe the inverse, 15 points for first, 15 points for last, and then diminishing returns in the middle. I would love to see stuff like that. I feel like the arenas do have some good variety. I would like a little bit more zany variety. This game leans in a little bit to the silly. There's polar bears, and there's eagles and horses playing hockey against each other. That's silly, right? But I really am engaged by this tiebreaker system. I want 3, 4, 5 of a kind. But if I'm going to have 4 of a kind and everyone else is 4 of a kind, how do I want to kind of lean towards that? Now, the card draft is, yes, up to luck. But also, you can draft towards fixing up and boosting your previously laid team or 2 out. And then, maybe your last team will not be that great, but you can swap that 1 card in between each team. Every round that's already out can have 1 member swapped between. So this becomes a card drafting game that has a little bit more of a almost, I don't want to say tableau management, right? But you're managing more than just 1 hand of cards at a time, which I find super good. I really recommend this game. I like majorities in games. I enjoy card drafting. And I think that this game adds a little bit more unique stuff that I haven't really seen. There's very few card games where you draft your hand of cards, but you don't reveal it at each draft. A few games like Medieval Academy and Blood Rage have that idea, and I really like how this game implements it. The game does not look that great. It doesn't look terrible, but it looks a bit amateurish. But I think that the look of it still actually kind of works out in the end. I hate the score track, but I really like the scoring mechanisms and stuff. Now, it's a bit clunky to teach, and so I find that that's probably the biggest hang-up. But in terms of everything, the players that I've played this with have all been impressed, had fun, laughed, really enjoyed it. Like I said, it's a little bit sillier of an experience, but still very good. I'm giving this game a 7.5. I really do recommend it if you can find a copy of it. I don't know how available it is in many places, but if you're looking for a nice game that plays well with the larger group, it's good. Even the people who were eliminated first in the playoffs still had a lot of engagement watching how the rest of it tied out, because even though they were knocked out first, maybe they had such a good lead that they could still kind of come out, in pretty good shape. So overall, I like it. The statue, or the cup that you hold up at the end of the game is super silly, but I'm glad it leans into the funniness of it. So I really recommend it. That is All-Star Draft. Once again, my name is Chris from the Dice Tower. Thank you for coming by and enjoying this review. Have yourselves a great day.